Hey, Poli-Sci 100 Section 13 students, I just thought I'd check in a little bit to give you some words of encouragement and to give you some guidance about how the class will run. I had the welcome video, but there have been a few questions that people have been asking, and since we have so many different formats that professors are using throughout the semester, some having required Zoom check-ins, some having pre-recorded lectures, so I'm doing a mixture of those. I wanted to be clear about what this class is going to look like. And then I have some other things I want to talk about. And I'll try to check in every week or so to kind of give you your marching orders so that you know where you're supposed to be, and just can kind of check your progress based on that. So where you're supposed to be is chapter 1 of the textbook and the PowerPoint presentations and the lectures that I've recorded to go with those. And so all of the chapters are going to run the same way, is that you access the chapter from the textbook, and there are actually 2 textbooks that are put on the same site. If you use the link that I gave you, you will see that the main textbook is what's listed first. And so if you continue to scroll down on the table of contents a little bit further after you finish chapter 18 of the main Struggle for Democracy textbook, you'll find it'll start up again chapter 1, 2, 3, and that's the Mona Field book. It's not entirely clear, and I apologize for that, but that's just the way the format is. So you want to do the textbook readings first, and then after you do that, you will access the PowerPoint presentations that I have put on for each chapter. That's found under Content on Beachboard. And then there are video lectures that go with those. And you should probably have the PowerPoints open as you listen to the video lectures that I've put together. Feel free to take extra notes as you want. You can do on PowerPoint, you can put the notes directly on the slides, you can put them in another file, you can decide what works best for you. You can actually write them down on a piece of paper if you'd like. So whatever format works for you is what is best. So the nice thing about this class is there are not required Zoom lectures that I'll be giving. You do not have to attend any of those. Instead, I've already pre-recorded the lectures, and you can watch those at your own pace, and you can decide when to do it, when it works best for you. You know you have the time period from 12:30 to 1:45 open on Tuesday and Thursday, because that's when our class meets. So that is certainly a time that you could be doing the work for the class, but you don't have to. It's called asynchronous. It does not have any specific time frame that you have to do things. There are things that are due at a specific time. For example, the essays are due by a particular deadline, as well as the exams are held on a particular day. But even within that day, there's a period of time when you can take the exam. You can certainly take the exam during the scheduled exam period, during the scheduled class period, but again, you don't have to. As we get closer to the first exam, I'll provide information about that so you know a little bit more about how that's going to work. So for this week, you read the chapter, and then there are 3 separate PowerPoint presentations, and then those PowerPoint presentations are split into smaller video lectures. You want to take a look at those. And also embedded in each one of the PowerPoint presentations are links to other readings and videos that I want you to watch and to think about. They're not too long, but they kind of augment some of the ideas that were brought up in the textbook and then also in my video lectures. So I definitely want you to take a look at those as well. And they are fair game for the exam when that shows up, and will definitely be helpful for some of you as you write your essay. And so the one thing you want to do is not wait too long. I gave you last week to get ready to get access to the textbook, to figure out the Beachboard site and things like that, to introduce yourselves to everyone else. I'm still in the midst of taking a look at those and responding to those. Those are fascinating, and I really encourage all of you to take a look at not just what you wrote, but what other people wrote, and maybe find ways of reaching out to other people who have similar interests and form study groups, or exchange essays with each other so you can read each other's essays and things like that, to make this as much a collaborative effort as possible. It's not required, but just something I would suggest, and they're just fascinating people in this class, and to find out about some of those folks I think would be great. So I'm about halfway done responding to those. I'll continue doing that. We'll hope to finish up relatively soon. But don't wait too long to do the work that you need to do. Time shifting is the main thing, but don't wait till the very last moment to review this stuff. As you start to see, there's a considerable amount of work in terms of reading the textbook, but then also taking a look at the PowerPoint presentations and the video lectures. There are quite a few, but that's to replicate that our class would meet for 75 minutes twice a week, so that's a considerable amount of time as well. So just so you know that, I would suggest, if possible, if you haven't already, to start accessing chapter 1 in the textbook, and then also start taking a look at the video lectures and take notes on those as needed. So particularly, as I said before, chapter 2 has quite a bit. In a regular meeting, that takes 3 or 4 class periods to get through all that material. And so I've listed it for a week, but in some ways, this time shifting allows you to get ahead because chapter 1 doesn't have nearly as much stuff. It's relatively straightforward. It's interesting, but it's relatively straightforward. Definitely worth thinking about because chapter 1 has some of the foundations of the ideas that are going to be returned to time and again. The idea of the trade-offs that are part of any decision in democracy, this idea of the democracy standard, which is popular sovereignty, political liberty, and political equality. That's something we're going to go back to time and again throughout this textbook. So being clear about what that means and what those trade-offs are and things like that I talk about in my video lectures will really help you in this class. So definitely take a look at that. Essay 1 is due relatively soon. It's not to scare you. It's not due until the end of September. So if you want to feel like there's a long period of time to work on it, that's fine as well. It's due Friday, September 25th by 11:59 p.m. By that deadline, you can certainly get it in earlier. But if you start working on it now, you could work on drafts and show it to other people in the class. You could share it with Nathan, the GA for the class, or with me, and we can give you some feedback about those. So take a look at what those prompts are. They're already available. They're under content on Beachboard. Take a look at it. Take a look at the essay prompts. In addition to the prompts themselves, I give you some suggestions about how to format the paper and how to think about writing the paper to anticipate the concerns that other people are going to have in reading your paper, to make sure that you recognize when you write your paper that there are people who disagree with you and that you want to try to persuade people. People are willing to be persuaded. So there are some people you have to recognize will not be persuaded by anything, but you're writing for an audience that's willing to be persuaded, but they might have some doubts about your argument, and you want to write your essay that way. So I have some suggestions about how to do that. The exams. Some people have brought this up. The exams are closed book and closed note. You're not meant to access the online textbook or the PowerPoint presentation or the lecture videos or any of that, or access the internet while you're taking your exam. It is meant to be closed book and closed note. So just know that and think about how to prepare for the exams when they come forward. There'll be a study guide coming, but don't wait until then to start reviewing for it and to start viewing and then reviewing for it. But just so you know, they're closed book and closed note exams. So for office hours, my office hours on Tuesdays from 11 to 12:15. And what I'm going to do is have a sign-up sheet. I have a link to that sign-up sheet on Beachboard a little bit later today. And then it'll be 15-minute slots that are available that you can sign in. And that way you'll know specifically what time to come by. I'll give the Zoom link in that sign-up sheet, so you'll have that. You use that Zoom link to contact me. There'll be in a waiting room. I'll invite you in, and then we can answer whatever questions you might have. And so you can sign up, but please, if you do sign up, make sure that you show up. And if you're not going to be able to, contact me so I can take your name off the list, or you can actually access, again, the sign-up sheet and take your name off the list so I know not to expect you. And so you don't have to wait around waiting for someone else to finish up. So if those times don't work for you, or if they're full, so please, you can certainly contact me by email and ask questions that way. The other is that Nathan Cruz, who is the is the GA for the class, can also have office hours and does have office hours. And they're from Thursdays 2 to 3, and then also on Fridays from 11 to 12. And he has Zoom meetings that way, and he'll have information about how to contact him and how to set up the office hours with him. So you should be able to contact one of us to be able to get questions answered, to have your concerns alleviated and things like that. And then I just also want to point out that there is obviously tons going on in the news, but some of the more recent things have a huge impact on the ideas of democracy and things like that. So, for example, the discussion about whether or not there are ways in which the Trump administration and others might be undermining the postal service and making it hard for people to trust the electoral system because they're arguing that there might be voter fraud or something like that, or attempts to make changes to the postal system, point out ways in which the one person, one vote aspect of political equality is sometimes hard to achieve. And we talk about photo ID laws in the videos and some of the things we talk about in Chapter 1, but there are other ways in which the electoral system might be challenged, might be questioned. And then the other is that you also know the idea of democracy was brought up time and again. If you saw either or both of the conventions, the Democratic Party went first with their convention that nominated Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to be the president and vice president ticket for the Democratic Party. And then you have that Donald Trump and Mike Pence, are repeating and trying to run for re-election as the president and vice president nominee for the Republican Party. And both of them brought up ideas about that this is such an important election, that people need to participate, and that democracy is on the line with these elections. So obviously the ongoing protests that are going on in Portland and Kenosha and places like that also have people to think about in what ways can that be seen as democratic, in what ways can that be seen as challenging democracy. And so it is clearly important to understand ideas of democracy for the exam and the essays, but also part of the reason why you're taking this class and why the state legislature wants you to take this class is because there is this belief that understanding the ideas of democracy will make you more engaged citizens and more critical of the arguments put forward by some people in our political system. So definitely think about that as you're reading the chapters. If you have questions about that, you can reach out to Nathan or to me or to both of us, and we could certainly talk to you about those things as well. So anyways, I hope this has been informative for you. Again, if you have questions, reach out to me or to Nathan, and good luck. Thanks. Bye.